On the evening of 11 May 1960, in the San Fernando district off Garibaldi Street outside Buenos Aires, a woman on a rented balcony waters geraniums that aren't hers. The can is a prop. The balcony is a listening post. Below, a quiet side road holds two parked cars and men who don't look at each other. The file calls him Ricardo Clement, but it's Adolf Eichmann. Returning from the Mercedes-Benz plant by bus, a routine they've clocked for weeks. The geraniums drip over a camera hidden behind curtain lace. In a folder back in Tel Aviv sits a line from a future announcement. Adolf Eichmann is under arrest. Prime Minister Ben-Gurion to the Knesset, 23 May 1960, archival press anchor. Afternoon warmth lingers. Light fades to cold. A man steps off the bus. A hand grips a watering can that suddenly feels too heavy. Success is not the point. It's what the cost will be. By 19th in September 1957, in Frankfurt, Fritz Bauer, Attorney General of Hesse, passes a quiet warning across channels that avoid official German cooperation. Eichmann lives in Buenos Aires under a new name. The trail originates with Lothar Hermann, a German Jewish émigré living partially blind in Argentina, who noticed a boy boasting about his father's wartime role. The boy was Nicholas Eichmann. Hermann's daughter had dated the boy briefly. The notice moves discreetly toward Isser Harel, head of Mossad, routed through a contact at the World Jewish Congress. No extradition is likely from Argentina, where many former SS officers live under protective silence. The file says, confirm first, act later. In early 1959, the address 4261 Chacabuco Street. Olivos surfaces in surveillance notes, then goes cold when the family moves. By December 1959, the name tracks again to Garibaldi Street, San Fernando, a modest house on an unpaved road near open fields. The men take shifts in rented rooms across different neighborhoods. They compare ear shapes in telephoto frames to SS file images from 1944. Ears rarely lie, one memo notes. The plant on the balcony gets watered at dusk. Same angle, same rhythm. In the margin of a planning memo dated 3 March 1960. Wait for ground confirmation before authorization. A rumor becomes a schedule. Schedules become a person. Intelligence work is the collapse of distance between a name in a file and a man stepping off a bus at a predictable hour. The second address, Garibaldi Street, offers a window between two bus stops where the nearest witness is 300 meters away and the nearest fence belongs to no one. The geraniums keep their position. On 29th of February 1960, Zvi Aharoni lands in Buenos Aires with a small advance team and a thin legend. Businessmen, minor diplomatic roles, cover stories layered to avoid intersection. A short entry in an internal travelogue, declassified decades later. Notes French-made portable radios, binoculars, handcuffs, and a portable forgery kit, sent along separate routes to 4 different addresses to avoid linkage if one package is inspected. They rent multiple safe flats across the city and a villa in the northern suburbs. One woman in the team plays the maid in one location, hanging laundry, watering plants, waving to neighbors who believe she belongs there. Isser Harel briefs the main operational group on 27th of April 1960 in a rented apartment before flying into Buenos Aires himself under false documentation. The illusion here is domestic precision. A broom by the door, a shopping basket by the sink, mail stacked as if someone reads it. Hidden in a drawer behind folded linens, lockpicks, wigs, multiple passports, and a typed after-action template with the last line left blank for results. The team includes Peter Malkin, an operative known for controlled physicality, Rafi Eitan, tactician and logistics coordinator, Moshe Tavor, driver and reconnaissance lead, and Dr. Yona Elian, an anesthesiologist traveling undercover as a textile buyer. Each carries 2 lives, one spoken aloud in Spanish, one held silent in Hebrew. The tension isn't violence. It's maintaining the seam between identities without letting either one crack. Aharoni's first surveillance note from early March 1960 records: subject observed departing residence 05 and 47, returns approximately 20 brr. Gate suggests physical labor, no escorts. Tradecraft looks like housework when you get it right. The picture captured on 3rd April 1960. Profile, ear, gate. Reads like consent to proceed. The watering can is refilled each evening. Through March and April 1960, they map the rhythm with the patience of archivists. Eichmann leaves before dawn toward the Mercedes-Benz assembly plant in Suarez, where he works under the name Ricardo Clement, a foreman supervising machinery maintenance. He returns near 20s out to the corner by the open field on Garibaldi, walks the final 100 meters alone, and enters the small house where his wife and children wait. The routine is so consistent that Peter Malkin practices approach angles on similar terrain elsewhere in the city, measuring stride length, reaction time, the physics of interception. Rafi Eitan moves cars at odd hours to break patterns. License plates rotate using tools kept in a driver's side panel. Moshe Tavor checks the route's sight lines from 5 positions, noting which porch lights stay on past 21 dar and which neighbor walks a dog at fixed intervals. A Buick sedan is staged as a breakdown vehicle. The hood stays propped open in rehearsal, hazard posture tested until it reads as ordinary mechanical failure. A note in the nightly surveillance log from 18th April 1960. Bus late by 11 minutes. Wind from the river. Light holds until 19:47. Subject shows no counter-surveillance behavior. On a kitchen table in one of the safe houses, the maid waters a potted plant that doesn't need water, counting to 30 while another operative signals clear through a window. The routine becomes reflex. Reflex erases hesitation. The team decides, take him where there are no fences, no streetlights close enough to expose faces, and the nearest door that opens is theirs. Repetition takes edges off conscience. You rehearse until the act feels procedural, not personal. Malkin will later write that he practiced the grip 40 times on a colleague, adjusting pressure to avoid broken ribs but ensure control. 11 May is set. The Buick gets fuel. The handcuffs are tested twice. Someone waters the plants again. Muscle memory now, not mission purpose. Extradition through legal channels isn't viable. Argentina has refused previous requests and harbors many fugitives from European war crimes prosecutions, some living openly under their real names. Protected by networks of sympathizers and the quiet complicity of officials who do not look too closely at German immigrants with vague pasts. David Ben-Gurion, Israel's prime minister, authorizes a clandestine extraction after reviewing Harel's operational proposal. The timing aligns with Israel's diplomatic presence at Argentina's 150th May Revolution celebrations, meaning an El Al charter flight can land in Buenos Aires without raising suspicion about why an Israeli aircraft is on the tarmac. The plan's legality is doubtful under international law. Its memory will become public record regardless. The glass booth is already being designed. On 11 May 1960, just before 2030, Ricardo Clement steps off a bus near the corner of Garibaldi after a late shift at the plant. He carries nothing special. Dust on work shoes, a shirt cuff repaired with uneven thread, the look of a man who expects a modest dinner and the evening radio. Zvi Aharoni, positioned in a parked car 90 meters away, recognizes the silhouette he studied for weeks, shoulders slightly forward, a habitual glance left before crossing, the gait of someone accustomed to labor. A surveillance note from 21st March 1960 mentions a 25th wedding anniversary gathering at the house, attended by sons and neighbors. Another identity link confirming the man in the file and the man on the street are the same. The Buick idles near the roadside, as if mechanically ill. Hood raised, two men bent over the engine in postures of mild frustration. Upstairs across the street, the balcony geraniums drip from their evening watering. In the field, certainty isn't an idea. It's a gate approaching a curb at a predictable speed. The man walks alone. The light is fading, but not gone. Peter Malkin moves first, closing the distance in 4 strides, gloved hands taking the arm just above the elbow. Rafi Eitan secures the legs from behind. Moshe Tavor opens the rear door of the Buick in a motion rehearsed to eliminate hesitation. There's a brief scuffle, knee to rib, breath expelled, the kind of silence that follows surprise when the mind hasn't yet organized resistance. Malkin's gloves are thick leather. He doesn't want skin contact, not because of contamination, but because of intimacy. Their written extraction card, memorized and discarded days before, reads, "Move, no talk. Eyes forward." The man is pushed onto the Buick's floor, blanket thrown over his head, body wedged against the seat frame to prevent movement. A nearby porch light blinks off. Routine, not alarm. But someone notes the timing anyway. No shouts, no approaching footsteps. The car pulls away at residential speed, turn signals observed. No acceleration that draws attention. In the first safe house, a small apartment 12 kilometers away. They strip the aliases. The false Clement identity card, a wallet with receipts from the plant, a key ring. The real markers emerge. A scar above the left eyebrow consistent with SS medical records. Blood type tattooed under the left arm in the style used by the Waffen-SS. The man's hands shake. Someone asks in German, "Are you Adolf Eichmann?" After pressure and hours, documented in Harl's operational log, the answer comes, "Yes." A line in Harl's notebook written that night. Primary identity, admitted under controlled interrogation. Procedure is intimate when a life is in your hands. You don't celebrate, you verify. Malkin will later describe the moment not as triumph, but as weight. The physical sensation of holding a man who organized the logistics of mass murder and finding him ordinary, frail, and human. The dissonance is part of the operation's cost. He will sign something that changes the meaning of every document afterward. By 12 May 1960, the team moves him to the suburban villa safe house, a location selected for isolation and defensive sight lines. The maid assigned there cooks simple meals. Windows stay shuttered with curtains drawn at all hours to prevent silhouette visibility. Dr. Yona Elian, the anesthesiologist, checks vitals daily, reads the forged transit papers prepared in advance, then reads the man himself. Pulse, pupil response, signs of shock or cardiovascular distress that might complicate sedation during the planned flight. On the table in the main room, a consent form to stand trial in Israel, typed in precise German legal phrasing. The signature on this document will be contested in later legal arguments about coercion and legitimacy. But the operational plan requires his signed acknowledgement. The form states he is willing to be tried in an Israeli court. He reads it. He hesitates. He signs on 15th of May, 1960. Some accounts say pressure was applied. Others claim resignation. The record preserves the signature, not the conversation. He asks for water. Someone fills a glass. Someone else waters the plants by the window. maintaining the domestic pattern that justifies the villa's occupancy to anyone watching from a distance. In the nightly operational report sent via coded cable through indirect routing. Subject secured. 9 days required before departure window. Plane scheduled 20 May, pending final clearance. Plans tighten like a lens closing. Phone calls shorten to essential words. The villa becomes a space outside jurisdiction. Not Argentina, not Israel, not yet anywhere the law can name. The guards rotate shifts. Meals are bland and regular. Eichmann asks once about his family. The question is noted but not answered. When the walls close, the world outside becomes more audible. Traffic in the distance, a neighbor's radio, the ordinary sounds of a city that doesn't know a ghost from history is being held 3 blocks away. A uniform is being tailored to fit a man who has never earned one. The blue coveralls of an El Al crew member. The CIA and West German intelligence, the Bundesnachrichtendienst, have known fragments of Eichmann's location for years through intercepted communications and émigré networks, but neither acted. Political weather shifts slowly. Justice, when it arrives through covert channels, comes as a logistics plan with contingency branches and fuel calculations. On 15th of May 1960, forgery kits are activated in 2 separate locations. Passports, crew manifests, and a fabricated medical letter explain the presence of an incapacitated crewman, a concussion sustained during ground operations, severe enough to require sedation and assisted boarding, but stable enough for transport under medical supervision. A technician files a flight log insert to align names with seat assignments. The El Al charter schedule, officially tied to Argentina's sesquicentennial celebrations, provides operational cover. Israeli diplomats attending the May Revolution events create legitimate reason for the aircraft's presence without triggering questions about cargo or passenger irregularities. Radios stay cold except for scheduled brief transmissions. Couriers carry instructions and updates by foot across the city. Meetings held in cafes and parks where surveillance is difficult. The maid in the villa waters plants to a count of 30, a timing signal to clear a hallway for movement between rooms. Isser Harel writes one line in the margin of his operational notes. This is not vengeance. It is accounting. He underlines it, then crosses it out. He leaves the moral calculus unproven, aware that historians will argue the distinction. Bureaucracy is what history looks like before it's spoken aloud. Every forged stamp, every falsified medical notation, every scripted answer to a potential customs question is a small choice that compounds into an irreversible act. The sedative dose for Eichmann is calculated twice by Dr. Elian. Enough to prevent resistance or outcry, not enough to suppress respiration during a 10-hour flight. The syringe waits in gauze in a medical kit, marked with Red Cross symbols. The glass booth in Jerusalem has already been commissioned, though the carpenter doesn't yet know what it's for. By 18th of May, 1960, a female operative rehearses her cover routine in the villa one final time, while the extraction team drills the mechanics of lifting a sedated body down a staircase and into a sedan without visible strain or urgency. Every movement is timed. 2 vehicles rotate positions nightly across the city. License plates are swapped using pocket tools, each change logged to avoid repetition that pattern analysis might detect. A radio test, 3 short clicks on an open channel, is logged, then immediately banned. Silence is determined safer than coded signals that might be intercepted and analyzed later. Eichmann's hands are cuffed behind a wooden chair during a practice sequence for boarding. The doctor explains how to breathe through cloth pressed lightly over the face, a rehearsal meant to prevent panic during actual sedation. The man listens. His compliance is noted without interpretation. The text of Ben-Gurion's announcement to the Knesset, still unfinished in a Tel Aviv office, haunts the room like a contract unsigned. Someone in the villa waters the balcony plants at noon. Too bright, too exposed, a deviation from protocol. But no one outside notices, except the one operative who does, and who makes a note. Daylight watering, risk assessed minimal, but breaks pattern. In operations, the smallest domestic error can be the loudest sound, not because it causes immediate failure, but because it introduces variables into a system designed to eliminate them. A neighbor might remember. A passerby might note the oddity. Memory is the enemy of deniability. A rain forecast for 20 May might obscure the tarmac transfer, hiding movement behind weather. Or it might blind the drivers, delay the flight, compress the operational window into failure. The forecast is checked 4 times daily. The sky holds clear. Eichmann asks what will happen to his family. The question is recorded. No answer is given. The silence becomes its own form of document. On 20th of May 1960, the El Al charter crew assembles at Ezeiza Airport for departure under the cover of a diplomatic flight returning Israeli officials after the May Revolution anniversary events. The prisoner is shaved, his face made presentable, and dressed in blue El Al flight overalls marked with crew insignia. Dr. Elian administers a carefully calibrated sedative dose at 14:30, timing the peak effect to coincide with boarding. Eichmann is presented as an injured airline employee being transported home for medical treatment. A cover story supported by forged hospital documentation and a physician's travel authorization. A diplomatic sedan, properly papered with consular immunity markings, converges with the vehicle carrying Eichmann at a prearranged point near the airport perimeter. The transfer is smooth, practiced, invisible to the ordinary chaos of international departures. Airport security police glance at the forms, at the uniform, at the man slumped and breathing steadily between 2 colleagues, and then look away. Paperwork in order. Nothing unusual. Move along. Inside the aircraft, Eichmann is strapped into a seat near the rear by the window, sedated but stable. Pulse and respiration monitored continuously. A flight attendant folds a blanket over his lap. The doctor checks vitals without looking down, a gesture that reads as routine care rather than covert supervision. The cabin is sparsely populated. Crew, a few diplomats, carefully selected passengers who won't ask questions. Doors close at 16:20. The engines start. In the villa across the city, now emptied of all operational material, the maid waters the plants one last time before locking the door and leaving the key under a mat as instructed. The watering can is left upright and empty on the balcony floor. Some thresholds are only visible after you've crossed them. The aircraft taxis, the wheels lift. Argentina falls away below. The first radio transmission that matters, a coded confirmation of successful departure sent from a relay point in Dakar, will reach Tel Aviv 9 hours later. The plane climbs into the night sky over the South Atlantic, navigation lights blinking in international airspace where jurisdiction blurs into procedural ambiguity. Isser Harel, seated in the forward cabin, composes the sentence Israel will remember, editing a draft he's carried for days. I have to inform the Knesset that a short time ago, one of the greatest Nazi war criminals, Adolf Eichmann, who was responsible together with the Nazi leaders for what they called the final solution of the Jewish problem, that is, the extermination of 6 million European Jews, was found by the Israeli security services. In the now empty villa in Buenos Aires, someone wipes a kitchen table twice, then once more, erasing fingerprints that were never there to begin with. Surfaces are cleaned methodically. Every item brought in is carried out. The address will eventually surface in Argentine intelligence reports. But by then, it will be a space drained of meaning, a location where something happened that cannot quite be reconstructed from the silence left behind. In Jerusalem, a courtroom in Beit Ha'am is being wired for sound. Multiple microphone positions, acoustic testing to ensure every spoken word will carry to the gallery, and the translators and the recording equipment that will preserve the trial for history. The glass booth is installed, bulletproof panels fitted with ventilation. A carpenter measures twice, installs the door hinges, and doesn't ask why. The Knesset statement is scheduled for 23 May 1960, 3 days after landing, time enough to move Eichmann from the aircraft to an undisclosed detention facility and establish the legal framework for what comes next. A single-line cable leaves Buenos Aires via indirect routing, São Paulo, then Rome, then Tel Aviv, carrying only operational confirmation codes. No exclamation marks, no elaboration. The maid locks the villa door for the last time and walks to a bus stop. No one will water these plants again. When facts travel across borders and through official channels, they become politics, evidence, and contested memory simultaneously. By 11 April 1961, in Jerusalem's Beit Ha'am auditorium, a glass booth stands at the center of a stage designed not for drama, but for juridical precision. Judges Moshe Landau, Benjamin Halavi, and Yitzhak Rave preside over District Court Case 40-61. Attorney General of the Government of Israel versus Adolf Eichmann. The room is wired for audibility. Microphones positioned to capture testimony in German, Hebrew, Yiddish, Polish, Hungarian, and English, all translated simultaneously for the gallery, the press, and the recording apparatus documenting every word. In the gallery, a survivor clutches a folded letter written by relatives who did not survive the transports Eichmann organized. Photographers adjust aperture and light meters. The images produced here will define a generation's visual memory of accountability. The man in the booth, 55 years old, wearing a dark suit and thick-framed glasses, is composed, polite, procedurally cooperative, and emotionally unreadable. He takes notes on a legal pad. He listens through headphones to the translation. He appears ordinary, which is somehow worse than appearing monstrous. The trial proceeds through 114 sessions. Prosecution presents over 1,600 documents and calls more than 100 witnesses. Many of them survivors testifying in public for the first time about selections, transports, and the bureaucratic machinery of extermination. The defense, led by Dr. Robert Servatius, argues jurisdictional issues and claims Eichmann was following orders within a chain of command, a subordinate executing policy rather than creating it. Somewhere in a Buenos Aires neighborhood, a woman who once played the role of a maid reads newspaper accounts of the trial with the balcony door closed, the curtains drawn. Architecture can enforce morality, or it can merely contain a person while words accumulate into a verdict. The booth is transparent but impenetrable. The man inside breathes, writes, occasionally speaks. The judges listen without expression. The weight of what is being said presses against the glass, but does not break it. The verdict will be delivered in words. The sentence will require a body. On 15th of December 1961, after 8 months of testimony and deliberation, the verdict is delivered. Guilty on all 15 counts under Israel's Nazis and Nazi collaborators. Punishment Law of 1950. The counts include crimes against the Jewish people, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and membership in criminal organizations. The evidence presented includes transport schedules signed by Eichmann, memos detailing logistical coordination of deportations, and testimony linking him directly to the administrative mechanisms that enabled industrial-scale murder. Appeals follow procedural channels. Eichmann's lawyers argue jurisdiction, that Israel did not exist as a state when the crimes occurred, that the abduction from Argentina violated sovereignty, that retroactive law cannot be applied. The Supreme Court of Israel, sitting as a court of criminal appeals, rejects the challenges on 29 May 1962. A clemency petition to President Yitzhak Ben-Zvi arrives shortly after, a final procedural step required before execution. In the petition, the prisoner describes himself as an instrument of state policy, not an architect, a clerk following directives, not a leader who authored them. The language attempts distance, grammatical distance between agent and action, historical distance between orders and consequences. A presidential clerk stamps the rejection on 31 May 1962. The law proceeds. In the archived Safe House operational log from May 1960, a blank space remains where after-action lessons learned should have been recorded. Perhaps because the operational lesson was procedural success, but the moral lesson remained unresolved. What does it mean to capture a man who organized the logistics of genocide? What does justice look like when scaled against 6 million deaths? The trial answered legally. The questions echo regardless. Somewhere in an apartment with a balcony, a woman who once watered geraniums as cover tends actual plants now and turns away before the soil darkens with water. The gesture is the same. The meaning has changed. She doesn't speak about what she did. The operation's participants were instructed toward silence. Some will write memoirs decades later. Some will carry it quietly. Ramla prison prepares a small room with no windows and a single door. Just after midnight on 1 June 1962, in a room inside Ramla prison, the sentence imposed by Israeli law is carried out by hanging. Eichmann's final statement, recorded hours before, includes the line, "Long live Germany, long live Argentina, long live Austria. I shall not forget them." There is no apology, no acknowledgement of the millions murdered through systems he helped coordinate. The body is cremated immediately. By Eau-3 Zau, ashes are taken by police boat beyond Israel's territorial waters in the Mediterranean and scattered so no grave can become a site of pilgrimage or contestation. No soil holds them. No marker records the location. Ben-Gurion's original announcement, the line from 23 May 1960 declaring Eichmann's capture, echoes in newsprint and radio archives. A sentence that changed the political weather of international law and the public memory of the Holocaust. Other lines go unrecorded, the ones written by those who watered plants as signals, who timed breath sequences during extraction rehearsals, who held another human's wrists and felt the pulse and knew they held a life that had destroyed millions of others. Peter Malkin will eventually move to New York. Working as an artist who captured more than images, he captured a human being with his hands and carried that weight. Rafi Eitan will move through other intelligence operations, his name appearing in files spanning decades, always in roles that require operational detachment. Isser Harel will publish The House on Garibaldi Street in 1975, a memoir that names streets, dates, and decisions, offering the operational details into public record. A balcony in San Fernando stands empty now, a watering can left somewhere unremarkable. The motif is memory now, not operational cover. The quiet cost lingers where the geraniums used to drip. The weight of what it means to organize justice through methods that defy law, to answer murder with abduction, to balance the scale of genocide with the capture of one man. Justice was public. Its making was private, procedural, and morally unresolved. A watering can on a balcony floor in San Fernando, the same common model you could purchase in any Buenos Aires hardware shop in 1960, lies on its side, forgotten or left deliberately. No plants remain. No hands will lift it again for the purpose it briefly served. In the distance, barely audible, the hum of a bus pulling away from a stop on Garibaldi Street, a sound that once marked the beginning of a sequence. Observation, approach, capture, extraction, trial, execution. A chain of decisions and silences that collapse the distance between a file photo and a man, between an operational target and a human being, between history's largest crime and one bureaucrat's body scattered at sea. The camera, if there were one now, would not move. It would hold on the ordinary, the empty balcony, the quiet street, the fading light of an evening in a neighborhood that witnessed something it will never fully know. Somewhere, the archived operational logs sit in files marked for gradual declassification, releasing details decade by decade. Surveillance notes, forged documents, dosage calculations, the coded cable confirming departure. The geraniums that once provided cover are long gone. What remains is the question the operation could not answer, only perform. Whether justice delayed and executed through illegal means is still justice, or whether it is something else, necessary, questionable, historically unavoidable, and morally contested in equal measure. The trial gave a legal answer. The operation itself remains what it was, a series of small, human decisions, to water plants, to grip an arm, to forge a signature, to fly through the night, carrying a sedated prisoner toward a courtroom built to contain the uncontainable. The balcony stands empty. The street does not remember. But the record does, preserved in paper and testimony and the scattered ashes of one man who organized the murder of millions and who was finally made to answer.